Hello, we are reading The Borrowers. I have one more chapter to read today, and we just read chapter 9. We're on chapter 10, and what just happened was Ariete met the boy, and they talked to each other, and yeah, now we're going to see what they talk about next. So the last thing that happened was they had a conversation about whether there were more borrowers or normal humans. Chapter 10. So Ariete told him about borrowing, how difficult it was and how dangerous. She told him about the storerooms under the floor, about Pod's early exploits, the skill he had shown, and the courage. She described those far-off days before her birth, when Pod and Homley had been rich. She described the musical snuff box of gold filigree and the little bird which flew out of it, made of kingfisher feathers, and how it flapped its wings and sang its song. She described the doll's wardrobe and the tiny green glasses, the little silver teapot out of the drawing room case, the satin bed covers, the embroidered sheets. Those we have still, she told him, but they're her handkerchiefs. The boy realized gradually was his great Aunt Sophie upstairs, bedridden since the hunting accident some 20 years before. He heard how Pod would borrow from her room, picking his way in the firelight among the trinkets on her dressing table, even climbing her bed curtains and walking on her quilt. And of how she would watch him and sometimes talk to him, because Ariete explained. Every day at 6 o'clock, they brought her a decanter of fine old pale Madeira, and how before midnight she would drink the lot. No one blamed her, not even Homley, because as Homley would say, she had so few pleasures, poor soul. But Ariete explained, after the first 3 glasses, great Aunt Sophie never believed in anything she saw. She thinks my father came out of the decanter, said Ariete, and one day when I'm older, he's going to take me there, and she'll think I came out of the decanter too. It'll please her, my father thinks, as she's used to him now. Once he took my mother, and she perked up like anything and kept asking after her and why she didn't come anymore, and saying they've watered the Madeira because once, she says, she saw a little man and a little woman, and now she only sees a little man. I wish she thought I came out of the decanter, said the boy. She gives me dictations and teaches me to write. I only see her in the mornings when she's cross. She sends for me and looks behind my ears and asks Mrs. D if I've learned my words. What does Mrs. D look like? Asked Ariete. How delicious it was to say Mrs. D like that. How careless and darling. She's fat and has a mustache and gives me my bath and hurts my bruise and my sore elbow and says she'll take a slipper to me one of these days. The boy pulled up a tuft of grass and stared at it angrily. Ariete saw his lip tremble. My mother's very nice, he said. She lives in India. Why did you lose all your worldly riches? Well, said Ariete, the kitchen boiler burst and hot water came pouring through the floor into our house, and everything was washed away and piled up in front of the grating. My father worked day and night, first hot, then cold, trying to salvage things. And there's a dreadful draught in March through the grating. He got ill, you see, and couldn't go borrowing, so my Uncle Hendry had to do it, and 1 or 2 others, and my mother gave them things bit by bit for all their troubles. But the kingfisher bird was spoiled by the water, all its feathers fell off, and a great twirly spring came jumping out of its side. My father used the spring to keep the door shut against the draughts from the grating. My mother put the feathers in a little moleskin hat, and after a while I got born, and my father went borrowing again. But he gets tired now, and he doesn't like curtains, not when any of the baubles are off. I helped him a bit, said the boy, with the teacup. He was shivering all over. I suppose he was frightened. My father frightened, exclaimed Ariete angrily. Frightened of you, she added. Perhaps he doesn't like heights, said the boy. He loves heights, said Ariete. The thing he doesn't like is curtains. I've told you, curtains make him tired. There is the great Aunt Sophie, and there is Pod, and there's the decanter right there. The decanter's like a bottle. The boy sat thoughtfully on his haunches, chewing a blade of grass. Borrowing, he said after a while. Is that what you call it? What else would you call it? Asked Arrietty. I call it stealing. Arrietty laughed. She really laughed. But we are borrowers, like she explained, like you're a human being or whatever it's called. We're part of the house. You might as well say the fire grate steals coals from the coal scuttle. Then what is stealing? Arrietty looks grave. Don't you know? She asked. Stealing is, well, supposing my Uncle Henry borrowed an emerald watch from her dressing table and my father took it and hung it on our wall. That's stealing. An emerald watch? Exclaimed the boy. Well, I just said that because we have one on the wall at home, but my father borrowed it himself. It needn't be a watch. It could be anything. A lump of sugar even, but borrowers don't steal. Except from human beings, said the boy. Arrietty burst out laughing. She laughed so much that she had to hide her face in the primrose. Oh, dear, she gasped with tears in her eyes. You are funny. She stared upward at his puzzled face. Human beings are for borrowers, like bread's for butter. The boy went silent a while. A sigh of wind rustled the cherry tree and shivered among the blossoms. Well, I don't believe it, he said at last, watching the falling petals. I don't believe that's what we're for at all. And I don't believe we're dying out. Oh, goodness, exclaimed Arrietty impatiently, staring up at his chin. Use your common sense. You're the only real human being I ever saw, although I do just know of 3 more, Crampfurl, her, and Mrs. Driver. But I know lots and lots of borrowers, the overmantels, the harpsichords, and the rain barrels, and the linen presses and the boot racks, and the Honorable John Suddingtons, and, he looked down, John Suddington? But he was our great-aunt uncle. Well, this family lived behind a pitcher. She went on Arrietty, hardly listening. And then there were the stovepipes and the pole bells and the... Yes, he interrupted. But did you see them? I saw the harpsichords, and my mother was a bell pull, and the others were before I was born. He leaned closer. Then where are they now? Tell me that. My Uncle Henry has a house in the country, said Arrietty coldly, edging away from his great lowering face. It was misted over, she noticed, with hairs of palest gold. And 4 children, harpsichords and clocks. But where are the others? Oh, they're somewhere. But where? She wondered, and she shivered slightly at the boy's cold shadow which lay about her slantwise on the grass. He drew back, his bare head blocking out a great piece of sky. Well, he said deliberately after a moment. His eyes were cold. I've only seen 2 borrowers, but I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Oh, no, whispered Arrietty, of human beings. And he sat back. Arrietty stood very still. She did not look at him. After a while, she said, I don't believe you. All right, he said. Then I'll tell you. I still won't believe you, murmured Arrietty. Listen, he said, and he told her about railway stations and football games and race courses and royal processions and Albert Hall concerts. He told her about India and China and North America and the British Commonwealth. He told her about the July sales. Not hundreds, he said, but thousands, millions, billions, and trillions of great, big, enormous people. Now do you believe me? Arrietty stared up at him with frightened eyes. It gave her a crick in the neck. I don't know, she whispered. As for you, he went on, leaning closer, I don't believe that there are any more borrowers anywhere in the world. I believe you're the last 3, he said. Arrietty dropped her face into the primrose. We're not. There's Aunt Loopy and Uncle Henry and all the cousins. I bet they're dead, said the boy. And what's more, he went on, no one will ever believe I've seen you. And you'll be the very last because you're the youngest. One day, he told her, smiling triumphantly, you'll be the only borrower left in the world. He sat still, waiting, but she didn't look up. Now you're crying, he remarked after a moment. They're not dead, said Arrietty in a muffled voice. She was feeling in her pocket for a handkerchief. They live in a badger set 2 fields away, beyond the spinney. We don't see them because it's too far. There are weasels and things and cows and foxes and crows. Which spinney? He asked. I don't know, Arrietty almost shouted. It's along by the gas pipe, a field called Parkin's Beck. She blew her nose. I'm going home, she said. Don't go, he said. Not yet. Yes, I'm going, said Arrietty. His face turned pink. Let me just get a book, he pleaded. I'm not going to read to you now, said Arrietty. Why not? She looked at him with angry eyes. Because... Listen, he said. I'll go to the field. I'll go and find Uncle Head Dreary and the cousins and Aunt whatever she is. And if they're alive, I'll tell you. What about that? You could write them a letter and I'll put it down the hole. Arrietty gazed up at him. Would you? She breathed. Yes, I would. I really would. Now, can I go and get the book? I'll go in the side door. All right, said Arrietty absently. Her eyes were shining. When can I give you the letter? Any time, he said, standing above her. Where in the house do you live? Well, began Arrietty and stopped. Why once again did she feel this chill? Could it be his shadow towering above her, blotting out the sun? I'll put it somewhere, she said hurriedly. I'll put it under the hall mat. Which one? The one by the front door? Yes, that one. He was gone. She stood there alone in the sunshine, shoulder deep in grass. What had happened seemed too big for thought. She felt unable to believe that it had really happened. Not only had she been seen, but she'd been talked to. Not only had she been talked to, but she had... Arrietty, said a voice. She stood up and startled and spun around, and there was Pod, moon-faced on the path, staring up at her. Come on down, he whispered. She stared at him for a moment, as though she did not recognize him. How round his face was, how kind, how familiar. Come on, he said again, more urgently and obediently. Because he sounded worried, she slithered quickly toward him off the bank, balancing her primrose. Put that thing down, he said sharply, as she stood at last beside him on the path. You can't lug great flowers about. You gotta carry a bag. What you want to go up there for? He grumbled, as they moved across the stones. I might never have seen you. Hurry up now, your mother'll have tea waiting. And that's the end of that chapter. All right, we've done 10 whole chapters. Let's see how many more we have. Does it tell us? Nope, it doesn't tell us how many we have. Should I check it back? Boom, boom, boom. We have 20 chapters. So we are halfway done with the book. I hope that you're loving it so far. It's still one of my favorites. I love you very much. See you for the next chapter.